Hundreds of years ago, in Ajare village, located in the southwestern part of Nigeria, there lived a young man named Ala. He was poor and struggled daily to feed himself. Despite being unloved by the villagers for reasons unknown, Ala had a golden heart. He wore a bright smile every day, never allowing the weight of his burdens to wear him down. Though he had nothing, he maintained a high spirit and stayed hopeful for a better life. To sustain himself, Ala often ventured to the outskirts of the village, where he plucked fruits from the farm area. One day, as Ala was returning from the farm, he encountered a young and beautiful lady. She had journeyed into Ajare without knowing where she was headed. A sad countenance drew Alao's attention, and his welcoming heart and warm smile seemed to lift her spirits, even if just a little. "Young lady, I believe you are not from our village. Who are you and what brings you to Ajare?" Ala asked. He smiled, brightening his face. "I'm a nobody from nowhere," she replied, her heart heavy with the weight of her burden. Her name was Aori, and she had recently lost her parents. Seeking refuge, she had wandered into Ajare in search of a new home. Sensing her sorrow, Ala invited her to his modest home. He offered her some of his fruits and water, allowing her to relax after her long journey. Once she seemed more at ease, Ala gently probed further to understand her story. "Now, tell me, who are you and what do you seek here in our village?" he asked. With a more relaxed tone, Aori began. "I am Aori. I came from a faraway village, seeking refuge somewhere better than my own." "Maybe you could stay here then," Ala suggested. "Thank you for your hospitality. I think I will consider staying. I have no family anymore," she said, her voice breaking as she wept. Ala felt deep compassion for her as he listened to her story. "My father died after a short illness then. We couldn't cater for our needs anymore. All my mother's efforts to make ends meet were all futile. Often she would beg her friends and villagers to help her, but people got fed up of her incessant begging and then decided to ignore us. When everything became too tough, she resorted into stealing in the market just to feed our stomach. She got caught several times and got compassion from few villagers who pleaded for mercy on her behalf. But this last time, she went to the market and begged for fish, but the seller refused except she paid. While the seller was attending to another customer, my mother quickly stole one fish and hurried away, but she got caught. This time, no one pleaded for her anymore because they were all fed up about her non-stop stealing. And according to the law of our land, when a thief is caught, the penalty is to stone such person to death. The angry villagers became deaf to my plea, and so my mother was given the penalty. I couldn't bear the pain and loss. I decided to leave the village to just anywhere. It's so sad to hear you went through all that. I'm so sorry," Ala said, his voice full of empathy. "Though I don't have much, I am also an orphan and I survive each day by grace. All I have is this small house my parents left behind. If you don't mind, we can live together and support each other. not minding our circumstances. From that day onward, Alao and Ilori began living together. With an additional mouth to feed, Alao increased his efforts to gather food. Despite the hardships, he never complained. He demonstrated compassion and made his house welcoming for Ilori, vying to care for her as his own sister. Alao found a new sense of purpose. However, the villagers noticed Ilori's presence and mocked her. Whenever she passed by, they would sneer, "See how beautiful she is." Yet, she couldn't find a better person to stay with but the unfortunate Alao. Sure, Ilori's years were filled with endless gossip and cruel names the villagers called Alao, and she could only wonder why they hated him so much. One day, she approached Alao, determined to understand the reason for such animosity. "Alao, is there anything about you that you are yet to tell me?" she asked, concern evident in her voice. "Of course not. Why do you ask?" he replied, looking slightly puzzled. "I'm just too sick of how the villagers call you bad names. I'm concerned about why they hate you so much." Alao smiled gently and replied, "Well, I used to wonder why, but I have stopped. I have come too far to allow their hatred to pull me down. In life, I have come to realize that people's opinions and thoughts about me don't define my destiny. Let them hate as much as they can, but I am persuaded that my life and my future are not in their hands, but in the hands of my Creator. He will do with me whatever He pleases, not what the villagers wish." Ilori, hearing these words, felt proud of Alao's resilience and wisdom. She knew then that Alao was a very special person. Even amidst the hate and lack, you still wear a bright face and have a believing heart. That's amazing, she replied, admiration shining in her eyes. As days went by, the villagers never stopped insulting Ilori for living with unfortunate Alao. One evening, while she was by the farm road at the village outskirts, sourcing for common green vegetables to make soup, a young man from the village named Anike spotted her and decided to approach. "Hey, beautiful lady, what are you doing inside the bush all alone?" Anike asked. "I'm just looking for water leaf to make soup," Ilori responded. Anike laughed scornfully. "Oh, you're looking for water leaf that mistakenly grew inside the bush to cook? Wow, as beautiful as you are, you shouldn't be going through all these tough times. Be my wife and I will make life easier for you. I will treat you as my special queen, even better than the queen of this village. You see, I'm one of the richest farmers in this village, so you should know that when you marry me, food will never be your problem." Anike tried to touch her, but she pushed him away and warned him sternly to never come close to her again. "You rude and arrogant man. Thank you for your offer, but I don't need it. Stay away from me," she snapped. The news of her rejecting Anike spread quickly through the village, and villagers began mocking her. "See a helpless pauper rejecting a helping hand," some whispered. "Leave her. It's like poverty runs in her lineage. She will definitely remain poor as long as she stays with that unfortunate Alao," others cheered. Alao, who had heard about the mockery, did everything within his power to encourage Ilori to never be moved by their words. "See, I know their words can be heart-wrenching, but I just want to tell you to never take them to heart. Do not let people's words define you. Know who you are and live by it. Be sure of what you want and stand for it," he advised gently. Ilori already fed up with the shame and mockery, decided to heed to his advice. Ala and Aori continued living together in lack and struggles. Like siblings, their bond grew stronger and they never allowed anything to break them. But one day, while Aori was returning from the farm, where she went to pluck fruits, she met Alabi, a young and handsome man in the village. Alabi was the son of the richest farmer in the entire village. Almost all the maidens in the village wished to have him as their husband. They treated him as precious gold, and many would literally melt if he asked them out. Some said he was the most handsome man in the village. Others said he's the most preferred man in the village. Many of the girls tried several means to get his attention, but Alabi was a reserved man who knew what he wanted. When he saw Aori, his heart gladdened, and he knew his search for a wife had finally come to an end. Alabi hurriedly approached Aori, eager to know her better. However, Aori, unmoved by his approach, replied coldly. Alabi, who was accustomed to girls honoring him, was astonished that there was a girl in the whole village who wouldn't tremble at his words or show him any form of reverence. So, there's a girl in this village who is not dying for me? He muttered to himself. Alabi became worried about how Aori had treated him like a nobody. So, he vowed to do everything possible to win her heart. From his inquiries, he realized she wasn't an indigenous person, and upon discovering she was living with a poor Ala, he felt confident that winning her over would be effortless. Alabi began pestering Aori to be his wife. He would often trail her to the farm where she plucked fruits, showering her with reasons to accept his proposal. Aori, you know you're very beautiful, and my heart longs for you every minute. You're all that I think about. Since the day I met you, my life hasn't been the same. Your thought has taken sleep away from my eyes. I see you when I close my eyes, when I eat, when I do anything. It's always you. Aori, me, you've captured my heart so much that I've lost my senses. Please, do me the honor of being my wife, Alabi would say, kneeling and pleading with romantic words. But Aori never gave in. I'm not interested in your offer, please. Let me be and stop troubling my life, she would reply, sending him away. Yet, Alabi never gave up trying. He began sending her produce from his father's farm, but Aori rejected all of it. Even though they were often hungry at home, Aori never accepted any of Alabi's gifts. She did everything she could to fend him off, but Alabi was relentless. For months, Alabi continued chasing after her. A year went by, and he still didn't give up. He continued begging for her love. Gradually, Aori began feeling a sense of reluctant affection mixed with pity for him. One day, after Alabi had just finished pleading with her, she felt an urge to accept him, but reconsidered and resisted the impulse. When she got home, Alabi's words filled her mind. Worried and confused, she decided to seek Alao's guidance. Alao, you know Alabi has been on my neck for over a year now, begging me to marry him. I am suddenly beginning to have some sort of love for him. What do you think of this? Do you think he's a good man? Should I go for him? She asked, her voice filled with uncertainty. Alao heaved a deep sigh and replied, Well, Aori, you're not a child. You're an adult, and I believe you know what you want. But before I answer you, I have to ask, do you love him? Is your heart with him or with someone else who truly loves you? Think deeply. For a second, Alao's question hit her like a rock. Then she replied, what do you mean by someone else? Who is this someone else you're referring to? Alao kept quiet, unsure of how to respond. He had loved Ilori from the day he set eyes on her, and his love had only grown stronger as they lived together. However, he felt that asking her to be his wife might seem selfish, given his poverty and inability to offer her a better life. So, he had kept his feelings to himself. After a long silence, he replied, Ilori, I think you know the person. Do I have to mention him again? Throughout the day, Ilori's thoughts were jumbled. She wondered if Alao was truly referring to himself or someone else. That night, as they were about to sleep, she approached him and asked frankly, Alao, who is the person you refer to? Is it you? Alao, feeling anxious about her reaction, remained silent for a moment. Then, nodding his head, he said, I know I don't have anything yet to offer you, and I'm not sure what the future holds, but one thing I am deeply certain about is my love for you, Ilori. He continued, his voice filled with emotions. I love you. He broke down in tears. Ilori couldn't believe her ears. What? You loved me all this time and never mentioned it. You just sat there and let me hurt you with stories of men asking for my hand in marriage. So, if I hadn't asked you about Alabi and went ahead to marry him, you would have died in regret, wouldn't you? She said, her voice filled with emotion. I'm sorry, I believe you should have seen my love through the way I treated you. I was just too scared to confess because of my poor state. Alao replied, still sobbing. Ilori moved closer to him, tears in her eyes, and hugged him. I have always loved you too, but since you never asked me out, I thought maybe you didn't want me as much as I wanted you. Now, be a man and ask me out officially. She whispered in his ear and they both chuckled. From that night on, Ilori forgot everything about Alabi and decided to give her heart to Alao. She knew it wouldn't be easy given their poor condition, but she was ready to live in the arms of someone who truly loved her. They began expressing their love for each other when they went to their usual fruit spots, and they would play and laugh together, discussing their dreams and wishes. One day, while Alabi was on his way to the fruit tree to beg Ilori as usual, he saw them in a romantic moment and felt deeply disappointed. After all this while, all the begging and pleading, Ilori still chose this poor thing over me? He felt disgusted and turned back home. Alabi's mind was troubled all day. He couldn't stop thinking about Ilori. Again, he decided to go after her. This time, he took a lot of money with him and fell to his knees, begging her to marry him. As expected, Ilori turned him down. As you can see, I'm in love with someone else. In fact, I am married to him. So, take your money and leave me in peace. Alabi felt the greatest disgrace of his life. He walked away in shame, and the news of his rejection quickly spread across the village. Many girls mocked him for ignoring them and pining for a common girl who didn't love him. Alao and Ilori began living as couple, showing more love to each other. 3 months later, Ilori was confirmed to be 2 months pregnant. It was a mix of joy and worry for them, as they were unsure of how to cater for their unborn child. Feeding became terribly difficult. Ilori's belly grew stronger and her hunger became more frequent, but they had only a little to eat, mostly relying on the fruits they had always depended on. One day, when Alao went to the fruit tree to pluck some fruits for his pregnant wife, he got the shock of his life. All the trees were barren. It was as if someone had plucked all the fruits to punish his family. For the first time in his life, he broke down in tears, weeping like a child, not for himself, but for his pregnant, hungry wife. Quickly, he pulled himself together and went deep into the bush, hoping to find another fruit tree. But all his efforts were in vain. Alao returned home, looking sad. Passers-by who had always seen him smiling were shocked to see his distress, wondering what might have gone wrong. Upon reaching home, he broke the sad news to Ilori, who was too hungry to mull over his words. She hurriedly went out, moving from house to house, begging for food. Some had compassion on her, but first mocked her before grudgingly giving her some food, while many others just mocked and sent her away. A dire hunger forced her to swallow her pride and endure all the mockery. For the next few months, Ilori continued begging for food to survive with her unborn baby. Villagers even nicknamed her the pregnant beggar. One day, she faced the worst mockery of her life at a particular house. "Hey, beggar, shameless pregnant beggar, aren't you ashamed of yourself? Who asked you to reject a rich farmer for an unfortunate pauper? Get out of here and face the consequences of your stupid decision alone. Shameless thing." The lady clapped her hands, chasing her away as if she had stolen a prized possession. That day, Ilori wept bitterly. The shame and mockery began to eat at her, filling her with regretful thoughts. Am I not being stupid indeed? Who in their right mind would leave a rich man for a poor one? How long will I continue this poor life? I can't even feed my unborn baby. What will happen when she's born? Have I not missed something fortunate? Haven't I made a foolish decision all because of love? She wept bitterly, soaked in her thoughts. Should I go and beg Alabi? After all, he was ready to take me back with my pregnancy. She sat quietly in a corner, battling with countless thoughts. A few minutes later, she wiped her tears and said to herself, "Anyways, nobody knows tomorrow. As long as there is life, there is hope. I believe things will change. I will keep hoping as I stay in love till our appointed time for change. It's all for love. It's for love. I pray I won't regret it though." Alao noticed that his lack was already taking a toll on him and his wife. He had lost his joy and felt ashamed, like a failure, determined to not let his cruise of joy fail anymore. He tried everything to lighten up his wife's mood every day so that their unborn child wouldn't be a sad child. He kept speaking positive words to her, promising that as long as they lived, things would turn around for them soon. One day, Alao went to their usual farm to search for vegetables and possibly some fruits to feed on. On his way back home, he was met with a sudden heavy downpour. He wondered how it wasn't cloudy, but a heavy rain broke out. He tried to run home in the heavy rain so he could feed his hungry wife with the little fruit he got. But the downpour grew heavier, causing a messy and slippery flow and flooding. He managed to maneuver the slippery ground, but he fell. Realizing that the journey back home wouldn't be an easy task, for his safety, he decided to hide inside an abandoned building along the farm road while he waited for the rain to stop. However, the rain continued all day. He became overly worried about his wife and unborn baby. They hadn't had anything to eat all day. His heart grew weary and worried. He had no power to stop the rain, so he only wished for it to end. But it didn't. Swallowed up in his thoughts, Alao dozed off. Meanwhile, in the village, Ilori began feeling severe cramps in her abdomen. A few minutes later, her water broke and she screamed out for help. Neighbors, unable to ignore her heartfelt cries, ran to the scene and rushed her to the village midwives. While Ilori was traveling in labor with the midwives, Alao remained in the old house, sleeping. Then he had a dream where an old man in the likeness of his grandfather appeared to him and offered a heartfelt congratulatory message, chanting his praise poetry. Afterwards, the old man warned him to be very careful. Alao Omoekun Omola, strong as an elephant, a child of wealth. Congratulations. Welcome to a phase of abundance. But look here, tread with utmost caution, he warned. Alao snapped out of his dream, wondering what it meant. Looking outside, he realized the rain had subsided a little, so he carefully made his way back home. Upon arriving, he found his wife absent. Panic surged through him until a neighbor informed him of her whereabouts. Alao rushed to the midwives and the rain. When he arrived, he was greeted with a big smile. Congratulations, Alao! Your wife gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. Immediately after the midwife announced the birth, the rain stopped. Alao fell to his knees, showing gratitude for a safe delivery. His joy was unquantifiable as he rushed in to see his baby and wife. From that very day, things took a new turn for Alao. Villagers who had ignored their pain and even mocked them began trooping into their house, offering various gifts. They showed utmost love for the child and her parents, bringing them food items like plantains, jam, rice, and more. Their house was filled with so much surplus that they began giving to the needy around them. Alao and his wife could only wonder at the cause of the sudden love they received from the villagers. The next day, Alao received an unexpected urgent message from the palace. The king had sent his guards to bring him. Filled with fear and trembling, Alao followed them to the palace and met the king. "Long live my king," Alao worshipped. Acknowledging his greeting, the king replied, "Alao, I heard about the news of your newborn. A very big congratulations to you. I would have given you food and much more, but I heard the villagers have given you so much that you have in excess. Money is life and you need it to live. Here is a quarter of my wealth. Take this," the king said, stretching forth a bag of money to him. Awestruck, Alao fell to his knees and gave heartfelt thanks to the king. He couldn't imagine the sudden transformation happening in his life. Eager to return home and break the news to his wife, he hurried back. Arriving home, Alao joyfully broke the news to his wife, and they celebrated their change in status together. That night, as the baby cried for food and her mother attended to her, Alao couldn't sleep. He was lost in thought, wondering about the cause of the sudden change in his life. He reminisced about how the villagers had treated him poorly and how they had suddenly become loving towards him and his family. He continued to ponder this turnaround. Even the king recognized the birth of my child and honored me with a quarter of his wealth? Oh, who am I? What have I done to deserve this sudden love? He wept. He recalled his dream and realized that the birth of his child had brought about this change. On the 7th day, during the naming ceremony, the whole village gathered at Alao's house to rejoice with him. He named his child Anike because she was a child to be treasured and she had brought him wealth. The story is just beginning. Subscribe and stay tuned for part 2. Click the notification bell to get notified and be the first to watch it. Thank you for always watching. To be seen in the next video.